But there's such a more important answer to why happiness exists that I learned on this process and is so exemplified by all these people. And the answer, I'll just spoil it.
Okay. Well, okay, give us the answer, Adam. Now we're ready.
And the answer is that happiness exists because we are not strong animals. We are not, we can't beat a lion, a bear, a tiger, unless we have what? Each other, right? You and I might be able to beat a lion together if we work in concert and we do certain things. But alone, that lion's going to tear us apart. And so where we are strongest is in communities, when we bond together. And happiness is that glue. It's what makes us want to connect with each other. Because when you're happy, what do? You're like, I want to go hang out with my friends. I want to call people. I want to connect with people. When you're miserable, misery lives in a cold, dark room with the shades down and the lights off. That's where misery lives. And happiness lives in communal places, in, social places where we are able to connect with each other. And so that is what ensures our survival, is happiness. It's the reward that we get for doing all the things that keep us bonded together.
That's neat. I agree with you, because you're right. If when we're feeling down or we're feeling unhappy or we're hurt, a lot of times people feel a lot of pain, maybe a lot of physical pain.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of folks that might be listening to the show that's going through some challenges with a dis-ease, maybe dealing with cancer, maybe dealing with some treatment, maybe broke your leg. There's certain different things that we deal with in life. And going through pain can really take you off your game plan too when it comes to happiness, because it's hard to see the forest of the trees because you're in so much physical pain.
Right.
And then a lot of times in our society too, we then find an arsenal of things that we can try to fake the happiness. So I'm going to take a bunch of pain pills, or I'm going to add this, and I'm not going to feel the pain anymore. Right. But now I'm in this like dazed and confused kind of, snow globe of a life where I'm like, where I'm thinking I can make the lion my house pet, oh, don't worry. He's going to protect the front door and eat the scraps off the floor, and I'll feed him some sort of, good omega 3, 6, and 9 diet, and he'll be my best friend. But, oftentimes, I mean, maybe that would happen. I don't know.
And then he eats you.
I think he'd be my friend. He could sleep on the bed.
He would be your friend.
I'd sleep on the floor because I don't think there'd be any room. I'll just take the floor. Don't worry about me. So let me ask you. I ask some random questions often because I like to see where, as a kid, did you love shooting film? Did you do photography, or what was kind of some of the things as a child that you really loved doing?
Well, it's funny you asked that. As a kid, a group of friends and I that all grew up together on the same street, we made films as a kid. That's how I got into filmmaking, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because we had this collection of movies that we made as little kids. And one of my friends was several years older than us, and his dad was in the film business in the post-production side. And so when video cameras came out in the early 80s and they were accessible to everybody, his dad brought one home. And so he saw that and he's like, oh my God, I want that. And so he'd pick it up and the parents would leave and we'd all start making movies.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so we were all the little actors and stuff and, little pawns in his schemes. And so we took all those movies that we made as kids and we rolled them into a feature documentary, which you can find on Netflix, called Put the Camera on Me, which was really, and it was started as like an exercise in like preservation to preserve these movies. And it snowballed into this feature film. It also was my film school because I was able to learn how you cut movies and how you edit and all that kind of stuff through this process. Cool. So yeah, as a kid, I mean, my favorite things to do were, A, make these movies. B, I'm a musician, so I always played music as a kid. So I would love to. I have this vivid memory of standing on my parents' bed doing a performance for a babysitter of ours with a microphone in my hand. And I think I was singing like a Chicago song or something.
Oh my God.
This is so embarrassing. And I was literally like performing it like this is a real performance. And I just have that memory of that. And it was like, I used to do that all the time.
What happened to the babysitter?
I actually still know her.
No way.
Yes. She's one of my mom's best friend's daughters. So,
That's
and
so
we're
cool.
friends actually now.
Does she remember you serenading her at the Chicago song?
I don't know. I didn't ask her, but I should.
You don't want to bring it up?
I was gonna be like, so do you remember when we were kids? That might jog some other weird
I
memory.
know, she'd be like, oh, I thought we put that. I thought we
I thought we forgot about that.
You're like, no, the performance.
No,
me.
Chicago. Anyway,
We've all done crazy, but so cool though as a kid. So you knew beginning at a young age somewhat of where you were going.
yeah. I mean, I always loved performing and entertaining and making movies and
That's cool.
like that was my thing. Yeah, I always knew that somehow, some way, this is what I'd be doing.
What happened to your friend that was that got the video camera?
He's still a filmmaker, actually.
Really?
Yeah, he's made several feature films.
Do y'all
and-
work together?
We made that film together. Put the
Oh,
camera on me. Yeah, it was
very
a
cool.
collaboration between the two of us.
That's
so
cool.
yeah, his name's Darren Stein, and
Cool.
he made that film Jawbreaker. Do you
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that? Yeah, that was.
Oh
his,
yeah,
and-
for sure.
yeah, with Rose McGowan and
That's cool.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
See, that's what the neatest thing is. And I think oftentimes a lot of us don't realize that as a kid, we did have these things that we love to do. And that's one of the things that I try to inspire my clients with. Because I talk about being authentic. And one of the best ways to be authentic is to go back as a kid and think about those things that you love doing before everybody told you can't do it.
absolutely. Oh, yeah, genius! I love it. I love that because kids are so uninhibited. When you're a kid, the world is simple. The world is small. You don't think about. I mean, that's one of the other things that I think inhibits people from achieving happiness is so much goes into life. There's so many responsibilities that we have, and a lot of those things aren't going to go away. They're never going to go away. We all need to earn a living, and you got to keep earning a living. I mean, we all have this dream that we're going to one day win the lottery or, make it rich. Or,
I still have that dream.
We all do, right? It's not going away. But that's one of the things we talked to Professor Norton at Harvard. And one of the things he studies, this relationship that we have with happiness and money. And for some reason in our head, we believe that money is going to make us happy. And this is what he researches. And he wrote this article in the New York Times that basically states through his research, he's realized that about $75,000 is all you need to equate the maximum amount of happiness you're going to get out of money. And he says that amount of money is what it will take to basically put food on the table, to cover all the basics, to give you enough money to kind of do things in life. You're not going to be extravagant, but you're going to not be inhibited.
Okay.
And then anything beyond that, there's no more happiness you can get out of having more money. And he says, we did this research. He says, let's say you make $1 million. He says, we asked these people that make $1 million, how much more money would it take for you to be a perfect 10 in happiness? And they all say 3 times as much. And he's like, that's really funny too, because we have the people that make $3 million and we ask them the same question and they say 3 times as much. So it's this constant longing for 3 times as much, right?
Wow, that you're never going to get.
Yeah.
If you keep longing, it's like the rabbit. You're never,
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying they're never going to get it, but once they get it, it's still not good enough because they still want 3 times more.
Right.
And so it's not ever an ending cycle.
Correct.
My dad one time told me when I was asking him as a kid, how much money, and I was asking about how much money would make him happy, and my dad said, there's probably not enough in the world. And I went, wow. And I was like, that's a comment,
That's a comment.
And I'm in a place where it's like, I just want to cover, and I think a lot of people listening know what I'm saying. I just want to cover my bills and get to go out to dinner a few times and, and not be sweating every month.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can get past that point, it's gravy.
Yeah, $75,000.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's, I think, for a family of 4 too.
Okay.
That's the average in the U.S. So
Okay.
obviously, if
Mom and dad working,
right,
and maybe a couple of kids,
Right.
And so there's some stress there, but it's not stress that's going to kill you,
right,
And I think that's the key. And I think a lot of people are dealing with this false sense of what you need. It's like a good example. When I was young, I used to shoot photography as a kid, right? And then fast forward, in high school, I would shoot it like on the side, like people's photos or whatever, or like if somebody didn't really want to hire a wedding photographer, whatever, that kind of
right.
crap.
Awesome.
And then I started shooting for like agencies and stuff like that, like Wilhelmina Ford and all that great stuff. And then it got to the point where I either had to go full throttle
Mm-hmm.
or back out or become a wedding photographer, which I was totally against. But I remember if I was going to be this wedding photographer, I needed all this equipment because I didn't really want to shoot weddings. Okay, the point was I didn't want to do
the
that.
cameras.
Yeah, and so I was like, I need this and I need this light box and I need that and I'm going to have this and I need to have this digital and I got to have that. And I'm like thinking about all this stuff and I'm like, I'm just putting all these barriers in between what I think I need versus what I really need.
Right.
And how is that going to make me happy? Even if I get all this stuff, does that make sense?
Right.
And I feel that oftentimes it gets us off target because we're not looking at the real reasons.
Right.
We're not looking at the true things within us that I think appropriate or inappropriate being happy or not happy. But I think even going past the happiness quotient is getting to that gratitude level.
Yeah.
Which is a totally different frequency.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, so like, let me ask you, okay, the film's done and you've gone through all the pain and suffering of the editing process, right?
Yeah.
And because I think that's one of those things I could do. I would never have the film done. I mean, if it wasn't, I have a person that works for me and his name's George and he's one of my best friends in the world. And if it wasn't for him editing, most of my stuff would never be out.
Right.
Because I just don't want to do it because it's never going to be perfect.
Right. It's never
Color's
gonna be
not
perfect.
great. Got to color correct. What's this?
Yeah.
I heard a meow in the background of the sound. Oh my God. What am I going to do with this meow? You know, but those things. And so once you get past that whole stage, how was it to watch the film in its entirety and to know what you did? I mean, was that like what feeling was that?
Every single time I watch the film, it's a new emotional experience for me.
Wow.
And not just because of the journey that I took. I mean, the film is really, to me, it's really emotionally powerful. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I have such a strong connection with it, obviously. But I also sit there and I go, oh my God, really? Did I miss that? There's a spot on the side of his face. I can't believe that.
No.
Holy, how did I miss that? You know, it's
like right here.
right there. It's like, oh my God, I didn't color correct that out. Or, oh, those two shots don't match enough. Or, ooh, that music's not loud enough. You know, I'm constantly doing that. And you could do that till the end of the earth. And I would if I didn't have my producer going, no, you're done. Stop. Stop. Get it out.
Leave.
When we were on the road, we spent almost 2 years on the road shooting this film, right? We were traveling all over the country. We'd shot 400 interviews or more. And
wow.
we were finishing one of our trips because we broke it up into different trips. And we're finishing one of our trips and we're wrapping it up. And I'm like, okay, let's start talking about the next trip. And he goes, are you kidding me? Let's start talking about editing. I'm like, well, we got to finish shooting. And he's like, we have 400 interviews. I think we might have enough.
Oh my God.
And I was like, all right, fine. We can go back and edit it a little bit, but I still have this plan in my head to go back and shoot more. And I can't even put all the interviews in the film that I got, right? It's like there's 26 people in the film out of 400 that I have on the cutting room floor. And so, yes, there's this constant anxiety. I mean, I think as artists, we get that kind of, we want it to be perfect, and that's, I think, totally corollary to happiness, right? Mm-hmm. Because we want life to be perfect. Everything's got to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, we're not happy. And I think part of achieving that goal of happiness is you got to say, life isn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but this I love. And this is going to make me happy. This little thing is going to make me happy. And take a guy like John Lawson. Okay. John Lawson's a piano player. At 30 years old, he gets electrocuted by a high voltage power line and loses both of his arms. Okay. And he's out cold. He gets put in an ambulance. He gets taken to the hospital and he wakes up on a debriefment table, you know, where they're spraying you down, stark naked. There's 35 people standing in the room. He's at like a medical educational college, you know, a hospital at a college. And he's, he looks around the room and he goes, I hope somebody charged admission because this is going to get really expensive.
Oh my God.
And the doctor's like, okay, this guy's going to live.
Yeah.
And it's that attitude of going, okay, it's not perfect, but well, how can we make this moment great? How can we make something about this moment good? Where's the good in this moment? Because in every moment, there is something good. I mean, and there's bad, tragic moments in life. But even if you take a moment like any one of the shootings or the bombings or any one of these things, where can you find the good in those moments? Because there is good there. There's communities bonding together to fix the problem,
Right.
to apprehend the suspect, to help the wounded. And if we focus our energy on that angle of those bad moments and not the, let me tell you everything there is to know about this criminal, and let's celebritize. Is that
I like that
Is that a word? I just
I
made
like
that
it.
up, I think.
It's a good one. I like it.
Let's celebritize. Now I'm
love
going to
that.
use it all the time.
Name and lights.
And I'll use it a third time. Let's celebritize the criminal, right? I mean, how stupid is that?
It's stupid. I
Right?
agree. Yeah.
These are people we want to put in jail or put to death because they commit these heinous crimes, and yet they're the ones we're going to focus our energy on? Like, how crazy is this? And then guess what? There's some other crazy person out there watching this going, that's the guy I want to be like.
Oh yeah.
I want to pick up where he left off.
Exactly. Look at all the fame he's getting.
Right? Oh, yeah, he's getting attention. He will be known. He'll go down in the books.
Oh yeah.
You know, we all know J. Harvey Oswald's name.
Oh yeah. Exactly. You're right.
Like-
and why did they all have middle names that we always use? That's the only thing I
know.
always.
There's a whole
J-
there's a whole thing about that. People who kill presidents.
I know, like the weird
know.
deal. Yeah. Oh, the conspiracy stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's weird about it. Is like when I watch the news a lot, then I start going into the conspiracy things because I
And-
think it makes me feel better.
Right, and then you walk down the street and you're somebody following me. Wait, who's that? There's a shadow. Oh my god! I'm paranoid. Oh, I need medication.
Help!
Right?
No, I need some self-soothing. I don't know what to do. No, I mean seriously, you're right, and it gets so out of proportion, and then we also lose sight of our life.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you start getting into like then you start changing like your friendship levels. You
Yeah.
know, you go next thing you know you're hanging out with the conspiracy friends. You know.
Yeah, exactly,
And-
right?
And then they start freaking you out. Like the last time I hung out with one of my friends, that's like he's kind of known around society for talking about these conspiracy things. Scared the crap out of me. We're
Right.
at this dinner, and I'm like looking around, like I'm like FBI's most wanted. You know, I'm like
Right.
looking around, I'm like looking at her. He's like, "Don't say this, but I need to tell you this." It's like I don't want to know anymore. I was like, "Stop already," you know. And then half of it's probably just BS, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then some of it might be some sort of formulation of the truth, and some of it might be the truth. But
Right.
I don't want to live my life really thinking about that.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's your daily life like? What are the things, maybe like the 2 things, 3 things that you'd like to tell the celebrity perspective audience on the things that you really think about on a daily basis, the things that you do every day that really puts your life into clarity and consistently keep you on the path of your
Yeah.
purpose?
Okay, so there's several things I do. You have to. I mean, organization is one of my biggest my biggest problems, right? I'm so disorganized, right? But you have to kind of focus. And I don't mean organize. I mean focus, because if you look at my office, it's like,
Are you a piler too? I'm a piler. Like I like piles.
Yeah, and I have piles, and then I put the piles into boxes so that they don't look like piles. They look like boxes, and then I pile the boxes.
Oh my God, we went to the same school.
We did.
You learned that too.
The school of I never throw anything away.
Yeah. Well, and then every time I have in the past too, I always seem to throw away the most important stuff.
Right?
You know, the one things that you need. And
Yeah.
then from then on out, I'm like, no more.
Yeah, no more.
I'm gonna keep everything now.
We just moved, and I actually found boxes of my piles from like 5 years ago. I'm like,
Oh.
can I throw this away? I'm like, do it, Adam. Do it. Throw it away. Throw it away. And I threw 2 of them away. I was just like, I didn't even look at them. I was just like,
Oh my
I
God.
know how old this pile is. I'm gonna throw it away. Because if I hadn't found that box,
Yeah.
I never would have known it existed.
Oh my God.
Right? I would have been, and I probably never would have gone looking for whatever receipt from, some meal or a movie ticket was in that box. I mean, who knows?
It could be very, very important.
But back to your question. What are the things I do on a daily basis? I think you have to lay out kind of, you have to lay out some sort of goals for yourself. And I don't mean big, lofty goals of like, here's what I want to achieve, but just like the little goals of, I'm going to make sure to say thank you to somebody today. I'm going to make sure to smile to people today. Even those little things, I'm going to make sure that I change the way I react to something on a conscious level. I'm going to pick one time today. I'm going to do that. Okay. And every opportunity I have, if I don't do it, okay, I'll do it next time. And remind myself every time something comes up. So the guy on the freeway that flips you off, the person at the grocery store that has a little bit of a bad attitude, how am I going to turn this and not take something in? And it's different for every one of us what we need. And for me personally, one of the big things for me is I have 2 kids. And my wife works as well, so she often gets up real early and leaves in the morning before anybody else wakes up, right? And so I do the morning shift, right? I get the kids up, I get them ready for school, and I take them to school, which is awesome. I love the time I spend with them. And some days they don't want to do it. They just want to run around naked and scream and yell and play and like not eat breakfast because that's not interesting right now. And I'm like, we have 20 minutes. You haven't eaten breakfast and you're naked. How are we going to accomplish this? And it can be so frustrating, but I have to remind myself constantly, how do you want this to go? Do you want to drop them off at school being angry with them, or do you want to drop them off at school going, we just had a great morning? And it's all in my control because kids are kids, right? They are kids. If give them the choice any day, they're going to want to run around naked, right? I can say that to them any morning. So do you want to eat breakfast or run around and scream naked? Run around and scream naked.
I want to do that.
And after they're fully dressed, guess what? They're taking off their clothes.
Like, I don't want this.
But it's all about how I react. And one morning I was like, okay, nobody's listening. Nobody's getting dressed. I'm like, let's make a song about this. So I started singing a song, right? Yeah. It's time to get dressed, everybody, And then I'm like, and then within minutes, my daughter's stomping around singing the song with me. And then my son joins in and they're putting on their clothes. And I'm like, this is genius. It just took a little shift in my attitude of like, I'm not going to yell, I'm going to sing.
I love it.
And all of a sudden, we're all having a good time.
I love it.
And now I can get them to brush their teeth in the morning. I can get them to get dressed and comb their hair and eat breakfast. And sometimes even help feeding the dogs.
See?
And it's all on me. And if I turn around and I have a bad attitude, then they're going to be miserable. They're going to be upset. And I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to go to school with them, and I've done this before where I've had that attitude, and I kick myself on the way to school. I'm driving there. I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't do this. And it's all about me. And so just that little adjustment of attitude, even taking a moment and going, how am I going to do this different? How am I going to do this different? All right, let's change my expression. Turn around, smile, and go, Cheerios, instead of Cheerios.
No.
Right? And they go, Cheerios. And then it's like, and,
cool. And the milk, and we're
pouring the milk, and we're pouring the Cheerios. Oh, that's too much Cheerios. Let's throw that away, And sometimes you got to just be crazy with kids and let their energy guide.
I love that.
So that's the stuff that I try to do on a daily basis is just recognize, and I've told somebody I work with, I said to him, listen, you and I have known each other for a very long time. We've been working together for, 15 years. And I said, do me a favor, point it out to me when I'm being a jerk. I get stressed out. We all get crazy. And sometimes the stress mounts. I said, but do me a favor. I won't ever get mad at you if you do this for me. Just point it out to me. There was a time a couple weeks ago, I was getting crazy and I was starting to be a jerk. He took me aside. He goes, that guy reacted that way because you're being a jerk. I just want you to know. And he walked away from me. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I'm being a jerk. And I changed my attitude. I walked over to that guy and I was like, I'm so sorry. This is all me. This wasn't you. I apologize. And I took responsibility. And that's the other thing, is taking responsibility for yourself and your actions, even if it's to yourself, because sometimes we're jerks to ourselves and we just don't realize it,
That's awesome. I've really enjoyed talking with you, Adam. You're very interesting and a very deep, thoughtful person, totally authentic. And I'm going to watch your film again, Pursuing Happiness. And for all our listeners, you've got to check it out. Where would they see the film?
So go to pursuinghappiness.com.
Okay.
And there's a link right on the front page that says, see the film now. And we're doing screenings in theaters all over the country. So if there's not one available right now in your neighborhood, you can bring it to your neighborhood. Just send me an email. I'm adam@pursuinghappiness.com and say, I want to bring the film to my town, my city, and we'll bring it to a major theater in your town, and we'll even come out and watch it with you and do a Q&A and all that good stuff. So or you can, there's DVDs for sale that you can take for educational purposes right now. Bring it into your work, school, church, community center, whatever, and screen it for everybody. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'll be watching it again, and I look forward to talking with you again in the future on Celebrity Perspective.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
It's great.
Yeah,
You're
Great.
awesome.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you
was
so
awesome.
much.
I had a lot of fun.
I had a blast. This is a blast. So until then, we have another show coming up for you soon, Celebrity Perspective. Check it out. Check out the new Facebook, the new website, actually. We had a facelift. Well, I like to call it maybe some little injections, a little youthfulness onto the website, ashleyburgess.com. Also, iHeart, Stitcher, Google Play, Spreaker, any of those. Check out Perspectives with Ashley Burgess as well as the Celebrity Perspective. Stay tuned. The Celebrity Perspective of me, your host, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time, and we'll be back this time, well, 3 shakes.